Good morning, kids, and welcome back to another week of Providence Kids Online. I so missed being with you on here last week, but Andrea did an awesome job sharing our lesson on prayer, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. This week, we are in lesson 4 of the current unit that has been teaching us about different teachings of Jesus. We have learned so much so far. We've learned about the Sermon on the Mount, the cost of following Jesus, prayer, and today we'll learn from Jesus about possessions and worry. This week's lesson is found in Luke chapter 12 and is full of great truths, reminding us that Jesus is our greatest treasure. The reality is we can get so distracted with treasures and worries in this world, and passages like today's are so important to help remind us or teach us where our hearts should settle, not on things of this world, but on Jesus. Today's passage has a parable. Jesus teaches through this parable, and a parable is a short story that helps us understand a lesson a little bit better than we would without it. Today's parable tells the story of a rich man who had so many crops that he wanted to tear down his barns and build bigger ones. That way he could store up everything he had and just take it easy. Basically, the man was being a little bit greedy and thought he would find happiness if he had much. But God tells the man that he is a fool, which may seem a bit harsh, but he's teaching them that rather than storing up treasures for ourselves, we should live to glorify God and live generously, using what we have on earth to make an eternal impact. In this passage, we see the man looking for true happiness by storing up and gaining more treasures. But true joy is not from things we have or acquire. It comes from Christ alone. It's so easy for us to seek happiness in stuff, things that we have or that we want, but stuff will fail us every time. There is nothing wrong with enjoying possessions, but we must live with generosity and do everything we can to make much of Christ. I want you to take note that Jesus does not disapprove of possessions or stuff that we have, but he wants us to steward them well. Being a good steward means taking care of the many things God has given us and being faithful to use them for his glory. Now, I could easily stop right here because that was so much in the first part of the passage for us to think about and learn from. But Jesus continues, and he shifts to teach the disciples that they should not worry. He wanted to remind them they need not be anxious about their basic needs. Scripture tells us if God cares for the birds and the flowers, then we, who are God's most valuable creatures, can trust him to provide for us. Jesus is teaching in the story today that we, as believers, our focus should not be on ourselves, but instead on God's kingdom. We do not need to worry. God will provide and is so very glad to give us what we need. Which for me, this lesson comes in great timing, as there are so many things in our current circumstances that I can worry about. But God tells us in this lesson to not worry and to trust him. Jesus is all we need. We don't need more stuff. We don't need to know it all. We don't need to control everything. We just need Jesus. He is more valuable than anything else. He is the way to experience joy, peace, and love. And when we understand Jesus is our greatest treasure, we understand that our worries and our treasures that we have or want here on this earth are small and momentary compared to the promises we receive from Christ. What an incredible lesson we have to learn today. And it's quite fitting in the timing of so many unknowns circling around us. And it's also quite fitting that in this passage, Jesus is telling us to live generously. And this week, we're kicking off our school supply drive. We have an opportunity to live generously and love on kids in our community that don't have much and do not have the supplies they need to start a school year. So we are partnering with Bosman Intermediate to help collect supplies for those kids. An email with details came out earlier this week, but you can also find out more on our website. Kids, we are challenging you to encourage your families to participate if they are able. Whether you can fill a backpack with supplies or grab a few supplies to add to our collection, we would love for you to come alongside us to live generously and to love those in our community well. Guys, we hope you enjoyed the Bible story today. Have a great week, and we will see you on here next time.
Thousands of people came together to listen to Jesus' teachings. Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to share our father's inheritance with me." Jesus said, "Watch out and be on guard against all greed. True life is not found in what you own." Then Jesus told the people a parable. A rich man owned land that produced many crops. He didn't have anywhere to store all of his crops, so he said to himself, "I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones. Then I'll have so much stored up that I can stop working and relax."
But God told the man, "You are a fool. You will die this very night, and then what good is everything you have stored up?" Jesus told this story as a warning for any person who stores up treasure on earth and is not generous toward God. Then Jesus told his disciples, "Do not worry about your life or your body, what you will eat or what you will wear. Think about the birds. They do not plant or collect grain, yet God feeds them. Aren't you worth more than birds?"
Jesus also said, "Think about the wildflowers. They don't work or make clothing, yet they are lovelier than any king in his fancy clothes. If that is how God takes care of grass, which grows today and is cut down tomorrow, how much more will he do for you?" Jesus told his disciples not to worry about food or drink. "Seek God's kingdom," he said, "and God will provide what you need." God is happy to give his children the kingdom.
Finally, Jesus said, "Sell your possessions and give to the poor. A thief can take away treasure on earth, but treasure stored in heaven lasts forever. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also."
Jesus is our greatest treasure. Jesus left his place in heaven to live humbly on earth. Jesus obeyed God to set up his kingdom. We can give generously and trust God to provide everything we need.